Bonjour, everybody out there in listener land. I've got some news for you. We're not talking about Paris so much today, even though this episode was recorded in a little hotel in the Latin Quarter. No. I want you to close your eyes and imagine you're in Provence. Beautiful, lovely, colorful, charming, wondrous, magical Provence in the south of France. Today's guests, you're going to hear from Hugh and Susannah Cameron, and they are two Australians who run a company called Chez Pluie, which is an antiques company. And they're going to talk about French antiques, especially life in Provence, a little bit about Paris antique shopping, and even giving us a little bit of insight into how we can fix our own homes. Now, the short version of their story is they came to a wedding in Provence several years ago, fell in love, and decided to follow their dream and start a whole new life with new careers here. You can find out more about their story on their website and their social media. You want to look up Chez Pluie. It's in the show notes, but to spell it out for you, C-H-E-Z or Z if you're in Australia. Look, we should be doing it in Australian considering we're all Australian today. Chez, C-H-E-Z, Pluie, P-L-U-I-E. So chezpluie.com, Chez Pluie on Instagram, Chez Pluie Provence, you've got them. And a note, we talk about several specific items in this episode, and if you don't have the imagination, you don't have to worry. I've asked Susannah and Hugh to send over pictures. I've got dozens of them. They'll be on the website, theeiffeltower.com. Now, last thing I want to say, this episode brought to you by Patreon supporters. Without the supporters, you wouldn't be listening to my voice right now because it wouldn't be a show anymore. Patreon.com/theeiffeltower. Bienvenue to all the new members, and thanks for hanging around to you guys who've been here for 5 years. Let's start with a bit of music. Press Maxon, who you can find online by typing in P-R-E-S-M-A-X-S-O-N. Press Maxon. He made a song especially for this episode. Just for this episode. He played all the instruments and he sent me a message because I said, hey, we got an antiques episode coming up. He said, leave it with me. And then, ding, I had an email. He said, Oliver, I found a good one. This tune is by French singer Mireille Mathieu, and I can't believe I'd never explored her music before this week. A 60-year-plus career, 122 million albums sold, and born in Avignon, which is fitting because we're on the road this week in Provence. Similarly appropriate, the song is my take on her tune, Si Paris était en Provence, if Paris was in Provence. That is the music you can hear in the background as I'm talking. Let's hear what Prez has got to say, and then let's meet with Hugh and Susannah from Chez Pluie. Take it away, Prez. And with that music, we're in Provence. Not literally, we're in a small hotel room, but I'm sitting here with Susannah and Hugh. How are you guys?
We're well, thanks. We're up here in Paris for Design Week, and it's a big change from living in Provence.
Just this hotel room or Paris in general?
Paris in general, a lot more people, hustle and bustle. So we live in a small village of 500 people, so usually we have a lot more space, but it's great to be here for a change.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this, because I usually focus on Paris. I want to be transported to Provence. Yep. What's, like, when I think, I've been there, when I think about it, though, I feel like Peter Mayle, Menerbes, that kind of Provence. Is that, like small, friendly villages, not much English spoken? Is that the kind of vibe?
Pretty bang on. And where we are, we're a village of 500 people. We definitely only speak in French. There's no traffic lights. There's very, very few people around. But what goes on behind closed doors is something else. So,
and I think Provence is actually a huge area, and there's areas within Provence, and there's so many little villages, and each village has its own character. So there's something for everyone. People who live there just for the summer season, there are plenty of villages like that which are perfect for a summer holiday. And there's other areas which are great for living all year round. And we live there all year round. So a lot of people in our village are permanent residents there, and that makes the winter a really social, communal time, not just in the summer as well.
I was going to ask about the winter because I imagine most tourists, including me, we only seen it in the summer. Beautiful, lavender, outside eating, that kind of stuff. Is it, you have to be honest though, is it like a little bit in the winter?
Not at all. And we have, very adventurous friends who will drag us outside for dinner in winter. So we have had a fondue when it's, -2 outside and we're all rugged up and it's like we're at the snow.
And if it's so nice in the winter, why aren't the tourists going down there?
That's just a secret, I think.
Speaking of...
You can't improve your tan.
Speaking of secrets, you guys don't really share whereabouts you live exactly, right?
Yeah.
How close do we give out so people can imagine? Like where?
So we're north of Avignon and near Mont Ventoux. And for people who are into the Tour de France, Mont Ventoux is, Mecca. It's a real pilgrimage. People will go and try to say, I conquered Mont Ventoux, all, 1,914 metres of it. So, yeah.
And there is a nearby village, Vaison-le-Romain, which is an old Roman village, and probably a lot of people know that. It's a beautiful perched village that has that's in and around the Duntal de Montmirail, and that's right in the Côte d'Rône region. So we've got rolling hills and grapes and stone mass in the countryside. So it's really is the picturesque postcard Provence area. That,
You've sold me. You've sold me. I could see myself living down there. But with Provence and so on, like it's not really, I don't know, as I understand, it's not really a lot of foreigners living there so much. Surely not many Australians.
Not really. In our village, there's us and one other couple, and they just follow the summer, so they're here and there. And then there are people who've moved from other parts of France. So we've got friends from Le Perche, Normandy, Paris, Belgian friends, German friends. So yeah, it's kind of cosmopolitan like that. Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about secrets, and I know that they're getting into the topic of today, antiques. I know that you guys are, I wouldn't say secretive, but I mean, you guys have your company and you make it work and it sounds very fantastic. But I know you get behind a lot of secret doors that other people can't get into in terms of finding these antiques. Is that a big part of the thrill of the business, being able to find this stuff that nobody else can find? How big is that? Is that, is that what it's all about, getting into those?
I guess, yeah, that's very satisfying. It's like, ooh, there is treasure in the ocean, and you find bits and pieces like that. But I think what is more fun are the relationships with our suppliers and our dealers, and to build that trust. This has taken us 6-7 years to have those kinds of relationships. We have keys to some people's, shops, nearly to their homes. There's a huge amount of trust there. So it is really fun, and we're all passionate about what we're finding. So, and oftentimes there are pieces we're all scratching our heads thinking, what on earth was this used for, and that's also really fun to nut that out together.
So let's rewind a little bit for sort of so people can understand exactly what you do, and then how you guys make it happen. Can you sort of give me, Hugh, the idea of what you are and how it works?
Yeah, sure. Actually, this all started when we first moved to Provence, and we were shopping ourselves, hunting around for antiques, and we found so many incredible pieces in the flea markets in the south of France that they were all just sold hand to hand, direct, and we just couldn't believe what was available. And that's just not accessible outside of France. Of course, there's always been an international trade, but so much of these incredible pieces stay off the internet. It's all sold in a very traditional manner. So we thought, let's start a website and let's offer this internationally.
This is before you... Do you mean you were shopping privately as in just to furnish a house? Is that what you mean?
Yes, yeah. So when we first moved to France, we bought a little modest home, and we needed to furnish it completely. So the first place we went were to our local flea markets. And it didn't take long before we realised what was actually available, and from all periods, from all styles. And from that, when we first decided not just to visit Provence but to stay in Provence, we needed to find a job to do. And the first thing that came naturally to our minds was taking all of this incredible stock and putting it online. So that's sort of the backstory of how we started our business. And since then, we've met more and more antique dealers in our area, and got a really close relationship to the point where, we'll often we won't go to their shops, we'll go to their homes, and in their homes, these people have been collecting their whole lives. And their own houses are almost like a shrine to their personal collection that they've been building their whole lives. And to see those types of homes, it's that's when we really start to get behind closed doors.
How are these guys that are collectors? Are they men and women typically, or is there a...
Yeah, men and women, a lot of couples that have their own store.
So they start collecting stuff around France for their own stores, and then maybe eventually just fill their own houses as collectors a little bit? Is that...
Yes, absolutely. And I think they're all very passionate about whatever style that they collect. And they might have a little stand in a flea market, or they might have a truck that they go around to the local markets and put their items on display, certain days of the week. But in all that process, they spend half their time searching for objects in and around this area and further afield. Some of them travel to Italy, to Spain, to the west of France. And through all of that, they definitely are passionate about these items, and for them, they will hold on to their best finds, and they will keep for themselves. Right. And so over the years, their own personal collection builds up, as well as what they sell through their own stores.
And then is it eventually they sort of need to, I don't know, they've just bought so much they need to start selling stuff, and then you can
step in. They need to make space, and you kind of shuffle through a door and think, wow, there's a lot going on in here, but beautiful things, of course. And you'll have certain merchants, for example, who are really passionate about barware, old publicité, so old signs, enamel, that kind of thing that really makes you feel like you're in a bistro. Other people who really love religious boiseries, so, you might have sculptures of cherubs and putti that are, they've just been literally salvaged, and they do look like they're from a museum, they're polychrome, there's a bit of gilding that rests, but they're super old. They could be Italian or French. You've got people who are really into gardenware, so Arras furniture, which if you see it, you would know exactly what it is. It's really French wrought iron furniture, and people just have a certain passion for things. So that's also really lovely when we have people who say, I just want this certain piece. I know exactly who to go to. And, if they don't have it straight away, they'll be on the hunt. So,
and I think the other interesting thing is, coming from Australia, if we describe someone as saying, they're commercial, it means, they might be business savvy, they might be switched on. But in our area, in French, the same word commercial is not a compliment. It means someone is
sophisticated. Have you noticed that word is a real insult?
And it means someone is putting a business deal above all else, and it's not well received. And so these antique dealers, they're not out to sell the best objects at the highest price to the highest bidder. They want to work with people they like. They will only offer certain, their favourite pieces are only offer to people that they like. And it's not about selling, it's about having a continual long-term relationship. And
so I think that's actually, they get a bad rap sometimes. People say, I feel like I'm getting ripped off by a dealer. How do I haggle? How do I make sure I'm getting the right thing? And, for us, we just choose people that we trust. And I've never had that feeling. People are like, it's worth this much, and they can completely justify that, and you can see the value in it. And I don't think that you go to any flea market, these are respectable people who have made a career out of it. Often they're second or third generation dealers, like they know their stuff. And, they'll have reference books and, all sorts of things that really back up what their wares are. So I think people need to be less anxious about that.
But having said that, do you think that in like the Saint-Ouen markets or the Vanves markets in Paris, do you think tourists maybe are getting ripped off sometimes?
I think... Not really. Honestly, it's as long if it's the same as what we were talking about before. If people are nice to you, you're going to respond in a nice way. So if you get your hackles up, you probably actually will just miss out on buying something.
There's probably a lot of anxiousness from people going shopping for antiques. Is that something you've noticed? It's like,
yes, yeah.
It kind of ruins the whole thing, really.
And it's funny. you've got to imagine a dealer, especially in St. Ouen or in Ile-sur-le-Sorgue or in any of these other kind of permanent flea markets, they're working probably 3 or 4 days a week sourcing and restoring. And then the rest of the time they're in their shops, waiting for customers to come by. And it's kind of frankly quite boring to be sitting there. They have banter amongst themselves. They might have an aperitif and lunch, and that's quite jovial. But the rest of the time, it's cold, it's winter, and you're just waiting. So, you might see a merchant sitting in the corner of their shop reading a book, and it's not the French way to jump up and say, "Hi, how are you? Can I help you?" as you really would know. So I think it's just a matter of striking up the conversation and being genuinely interested in something. Don't waste their time if you're just, a tire kicker. But if you really are interested in something, start to ask questions. Ask if you can touch something, open drawers, for a piece of furniture, or their keys, or their secret storage compartments here and there, and understand what the piece is. And straight away you'll be on a way better trajectory than if you just go straight to the price. Like you're not buying a white T-shirt, you're buying something you want to live with.
Is it you, Susannah, that has the eye?
Well, yeah, and two, yeah.
Hugh's nodding. Would you trust Hugh do you trust him to find things?
Sometimes I choose everything on our website, so, that's, the good, the bad, the ugly. I have, for whatever reason, certain pieces, talk to me, and I'm like, I really want to have that on our site. I know I've got a customer that will buy that. But, at the same time, especially for a brocante, Hugh will oftentimes see things that I'd have just not seen. But I guess there's definitely a skill in scanning a space and looking, for, you see the big things, and then it's like, okay, I need to have a detailed look and see what smaller pieces there are.
You could both answer this, but Susannah, I'm interested, if you've got the eye. First, there'll be people listening who the words French antiques means nothing to them. So I'd love you to sort of explain what typical French antiques are, and then I want you to explain the things that make you get excited when you see them, either in a brocante or whether you're in one of the homes of the dealers or whatever. But first, a bit of an overview. What are we talking about? What are French antiques?
French antiques. So, look, we find things from, 17th century up until the 1980s. But antiques typically, so your kind of cliche periods are going to be Louis XIV, 15th, 16th. My personal favourite is 16th.
But what does that mean?
So this is a period in history where a king had designers and artisans who were making furniture in the style that they really loved. So Louis XVI, for instance, you're going to have tapered little legs, quite dainty. You'll have floral, little roses on the backs of chairs. Lovely elbow details on armchairs. Like, armchairs are a really easy way to navigate a period. And then, of course, you have transition. You might have a bit of Louis XV with a bit of Louis XVI mixed in.
Some kind of chair with a little bit of an elbow thing going on.
Exactly. Yeah, you're like, oh, I know that elbow, but this, die joint is something else. So, but that's how you kind of read it. And then the thing to know, which is just how it is, people repeated these styles. So Louis XVI is 18th century, but you can get 19th century style Louis XVI. And there's no crime in that. You just need to know if you're buying 18th century or 19th century. And the price, of course, is completely different. But if you want something that's got more life in it, for Otis to leap all over, you might, I want a 19th century one. It's 100 years younger, but I love the look. And then, of course, it's not just furniture. There's mirrors, there's decorative pieces, there's tea sets, like all of that goes with each period, so you can identify and start to read those similarities.
And which did you say Louis XVI was your favourite?
Yes.
Why is that?
Yeah. I think it's kind of lightweight, it's elegant, there's flowers, we live in Provence, I love flowers, so anything floral. And I love, typically with that, especially where we are, we will see things that have got maybe a little bit of sage green and gold running through them, and it can be a bit chippy and tired, but I love that. It's the right amount of decay.
It's like, for me, I don't know anything really, as usual with this, with anything. But so you mentioned those three kings. Does that take up a large part of all French antiques, or is there a heck of a lot more beyond that?
It takes up a large part, yes, but there is a lot more, of course, and there are influences from all over. You've got chinoiserie, you have all of these other influences going on. And, of course, we have things up until the 1980s. So, they would be vintage, of course, and it's obvious that they're not antiques, and they have a completely different look. And that's something that you can really mix and match. You can have, you know, a brass, smoky glass kind of coffee table that will bring out the gilded parts of a mirror or an armchair, and it looks really cool together. And, you know, that's really, I love that kind of juxtaposition.
And you said, I think you answered already, the thing that sort of makes your heart sing.
Yeah.
Is that going into a room and seeing some old Louis XVI stuff and being like,
Yeah,
and what is the vibe is like. But I mean, like, if there's a Louis XVI chair with the colors that you like in a room, like, explain to me why that makes you so excited, because the person owning the shop knows it's there too. It's not like hidden under a blanket or something.
Yeah.
What is it that makes you go, oh my gosh, look at this?
It's just beautiful. You know, it's just a beautiful thing. Yeah. And they're made with such care and, you know, hand carved, and the details are very, to me it's just an object of beauty. It's like a painting, you know. Sometimes, like, I love a still life painting. That's probably my favorite kind of type. Landscapes, then seascapes, village paintings, those kinds of things. But yeah, when you see one, you're like, oh yeah, that is just really beautiful.
Do you ever buy something or want to buy something that Susannah's like, no, that doesn't fit, but you love it?
Well, normally Suze chooses all the inventory, you know, that we put online, but obviously there's been days where she hasn't been available, or, you know, and so I've stood up to the task of choosing which items will be on our site for the next week, and definitely Suze has raised eyebrows. What were you thinking?
But does this you mean that you're choosing from the stuff in your storeroom, sort of, or full stop you're going and buying stuff? Or how?
Yes, okay. Going out and sourcing. So Suze will raise her eyebrows and say, "What have you chosen?" And I'll say, "Look, this is Suze's specialty, not mine. I'm doing my best." And but lo and behold, our followers. Someone amongst our followers will like it, and they will choose this random thing that I've picked. But I won't give up my day job. Suze is definitely the person who.
I can relate a lot to this, because it's a bit like that with me and my wife Lena, she's got the eye, and I have such confidence in that eye. Like, if it came to interior decorating or something, I would happily be like, yeah, no, you should be doing this stuff. And then there are things that it's the opposite too. I assume, like, I know you're really involved behind the scenes on things like shipping or website kind of stuff.
Shipping, logistics, website, digital marketing, all those things, which are probably a little bit less interesting and more operational, but that's kind of my passion. And luckily the two of us, luckily, because we see a lot of couples who are both interested in the design and style, and they're both kind of standing on each other's toes the whole time. So it's kind of by chance and by luck that we're interested in different things. So it's definitely an interesting experience with couples working together. This is something we hadn't done before we moved to France, but it's worked out that it works because we're interested in different things.
And I want to point out, it does work. Like, you guys are doing well. This is a growing business, and people have got their eyes on your eyes, basically. What's the secret to making this company work?
Well, it's definitely been a long, we've been in business for 7 or 8 years now, and the first few years are pretty tough, and this is because we're an internet business, and when you're on the internet, you are competing against the rest of the world. So you have to be the best store in the world, and you've got a global audience, but you've also got global competitors. And so for us, we don't have a huge marketing budget, so we've done everything organically from the ground up. But we've done a lot of hard work, and now we can outrank on, say, Google search results, not for the paid ads, but for the organic results that Google naturally ranks. We have now got, because we've provided our customers with great service, we've always kept our website up to date. Google sees that and recognises that, and has awarded us with much higher rankings in their search. So for that reason, some of our competitors are much bigger. They're publicly listed companies, but we can still outrank just by providing a better service. And
have you noticed the competition has grown? I mean, 8 years, internet years, it's like dog years. 8 years is like 1,000 years in the world. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed a lot of more people have moving to Provence and starting internet-based companies?
Well, there's definitely more people doing that, but I think for us, For us, it's better to work collectively with everyone, because I think the message we all need to get out there is don't just buy new furniture by default. There are so many great antique items to choose, and you can still have a modern house and enjoy an antique item that makes the room. And so for us, we're not worried about other competition coming. We think the more people who are in the antiques industry, the better. And I think it's all about convincing people not to just select new furniture by default. And simply by doing that, it's a huge market in the housing market. So it's just a matter of also, encouraging the next generations who come along. Don't just go for the modern furniture. There's plenty of different.
It's better for the environment.
Seek antiques.
Yeah, but it is nice to give new life to something that has life still in it, and I think that's personally we're very passionate about that. We resist buying anything new, at all costs. Like, well, what could we find that's got a bit of character, and it looks way better, and it's a conversation starter. Everybody's like, wow, what is this? Where did you find it? So
I want to talk about your favorite pieces. I have that in the back of your mind, and some of those weird offbeat things that I saw on your phone just before. But I'm interested in Susannah. I want to ask about, because I know you've done interior decoration a lot. You've done it for big chateaus and stuff like that. But to scale it right down, when you go into other people's homes who've done a bad job interior decorating, what is it that stands out? I know this isn't what we came here to talk about, but I'm interested. When you go in somewhere and you're like, oh, no, wrong. I'm sure that happens. You're being too polite if it doesn't.
Yeah, I would never say anything though. Oh my God.
But what are some things that people maybe do? What's something that people maybe do wrong who don't have that eye? And you can help them. Someone's listening to us right now in Melbourne, driving along, going, I wish I could have some tips on making my house look better.
Yeah.
What are people getting wrong?
Let's think. Okay, maybe there's a maturity scale as well. I think maybe as you get older, you naturally do, care a little more. You're probably naturally a tidier person. You might hone your personal style. Sounds so cliche, but, you might say, okay, I do like these tones. So, they will then naturally complement one another. It'll work better. But I think just basically putting in thought about how you're, living in your space is going to probably make a more attractive room.
And how about what are easy hacks to make it a little bit, little things that people, because I think it's I talk to Lena about this sometimes.
Yeah.
You and me, our minds work differently.
Yes.
I don't walk into a room. Mine's changed since being married to someone who thinks about this stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But even just lighting and stuff, I don't think I'd ever thought about lighting. In my whole life.
I think cold, white, blue lights should be illegal. Actually, we were on the TGV coming up, and I was looking at these apartment buildings. Some lovely, some just simple buildings. I'm like, how are some of these houses lit blue? That must just be horrible. You look like you're being interrogated in your own home.
You can see that in Paris sometimes. I was thinking about that the other day. Now that I've seen the light, right? There's some really soft light comes from apartment buildings that makes the apartment look beautiful.
You feel warmer and cozy.
But then some have this sort of dentist light going on. Is that the same blue light that
exactly.
you mean?
Yeah. So warm white, that's definitely a good start. It's more forgiving in every way. On, you can see less dust, you can see less wrinkles, everything looks better in a bit of nice light. Obviously, mirror tricks, rugs, symmetry, if you've got the space, is really easy.
What are mirror tricks?
Well, it makes rooms look bigger.
As in just put mirrors.
Put mirrors, put mirrors around. And I love an old mirror that you can't even see your face in. This is not a mirror for shaving and mascara. It's some old, really patinated glass that's, it almost looks like a piece of art. It's kind of a stormy ocean.
Louis XVI are my favourite.
You are onto it.
When we talk like this here, or when Susannah talks like this, is it kind of do you get it now, or are you still a bit
look, I get it, but Susan's the one who's definitely most passionate about it. So she's got the lead on these things, and For me, something arriving safely and undamaged to a customer on the other side of the world, that's where I get my passion from. So
That's cool. That's how you work well together.
The endorphins flowing out of him.
So when you guys walk into a room, Susannah, you're like, oh my God, that is what I want. And Hugh, you're going, oh my God, I can see that getting to New Jersey.
Well, sometimes Suze will walk into a room and she'll see a marble statue with dainty fingers and a head that's leaning and a dress which has got this fine marble carvings. She'll say, "This is perfect. We have to have this." And I break out in a sweat, thinking, "How am I going to package this?" But no, we find a way. We've been doing it for 7 years. We've got all sorts of different techniques that we use. We've got a full warehouse all set up for that, and a team of people who help with the packaging as well. So that's become a real interest, because it is every single item we sell is a different shape, a different size. There's certain pressures in different areas, and you always have to make sure that's properly looked after. So not as interesting as the design side, but that's my passion.
What about let's as time's running out a little bit here, let's talk about some favorite items. I want to talk about the two that I just saw before we started, and I'll talk about them quick. We'll talk about them quick, but then I want to hear a favorite piece from both of you, and maybe these are pictures I can share on social media. But first, you've got the erotic, was it 19th century? What was all that about?
Look, it's a mechanical toy. It's two people. Let's just say they're unmarried. It's more saucy. Just, basically going for it. But you have a little lever that you can move, and it kind of sets them in motion.
How big is it? Like the size of, what is that? The size of
it's like Barbie scale.
So bigger than my fist? Bigger than that?
Like the whole thing. It's probably like the size of a block of chocolate.
Right. And so everything matches the period. So the double bed is from the period, and they're dressed in clothes from the period. They're probably aristocrats by the look of them. And then when you actually look closer, it's actually anatomically correct. So there is no detail. There is no detail missing.
How much detail are we getting into this?
I think you're sounding a little creepy now.
What's the is this G-rated or R-rated podcast?
Go for it, we'll see. But it looks like they're essentially fully dressed.
They are fully dressed, and I think it's a moment of passion. So
it's a moment I don't know. It's beyond passion, I think. And there's a video, right?
There is a video. So and in the video, we had to do a video. We don't do a video for all of our products, but this one we had to, because
it's too funny.
You use your finger to pull a lever, and that sets in motion a repetitive movement that really does reflect what's happening.
Can you imagine the people out there on a long walk right now trying to imagine what we're discovering? We'll share pictures of it.
Yeah, they're both blonde, and he's wearing blue, and she's kind of got this layered pink frock. It's extremely...
she's lying down on her back on the bed, and he is on top of her, and her legs are spread wide apart and pointed towards the air.
And I'm sorry, this is already sold. This one.
Maybe the person who bought it is listening. Wouldn't that be fun?
Or maybe their offspring are out there somewhere.
Oh my goodness. And then today you sold a
detonator box. Yeah, so
a very elegant detonator box.
Yeah, and this is actually American, which is something we don't come across very often, but it was just, we've never come across one of these before. So, we have to put this online. So, I think if you think of who are those cartoon characters running through the desert,
think Looney Tunes with Roger, not which is the bird?
The coyote,
Roadrunner. So think of Roadrunner, and the coyote's trying to catch the Roadrunner, and so he uses the dynamite, the plunger box, to set off the dynamite. So it's literally.
Did you find that in France? That one? It's American, but you found it in France. Okay. Yes. But now let's finish on. I hope you've had a second to think about it.
I've got to think. You got to think too.
One item, and I want to share a picture of it as well. That just really that you just loved. That was hard to part with, even. Can you think of one?
Ooh.
Okay, maybe I've got a couple. Have you got any? Are you ready?
I might need a few moments to think about this.
I can help you.
Yeah.
Or you can speak on his behalf.
No. Look, I do like horses. Like, I don't really know how to ride horses at all. I'd rather just feed them a carrot and have a pat. But horse sculptures and things like that are really cool. And we did have a salvaged merry-go-round horse that sold, and that was so beautiful. It's
Like
wooden
a
carved,
big
huge thing.
for
You
someone
could,
to sit on.
Yeah, like it was, going around a merry-go-round. So I think that would be up there. Let me keep thinking. Have you had a think, Huey?
Just trying to think back. It's funny
We've
when
had 14,000 products, so you're making me like go
we're trying to think through 14,000 products,
Yeah.
but we did sell some late 19th century enamel wine labels, and they were for putting up a sign in someone's cave or cellar, and they had every sort of famous wine region in France, and you could tell they were from the period, and they would just absolutely make a wine cellar. And when we put those online, I thought we should just buy these ourselves. And then I remember the day they sold, and they were hard to part with.
Damn.
So
Yeah.
That must be you guys. There's obviously a risk that you guys become like the collectors and don't part with anything.
You'll see us on some hoarders show, drowning in it.
Actually,
This
we
is
have
a risk. It's an occupational hazard.
we have in our living room a club chair, which I refuse to even put it online. That is our club chair. So
Well, it's kind of yours and Larry's. Larry's our, poor Jack Russell, who's a little sickly but very cute, and he loves the club chair. So yes, between Huey and Larry, I've got to prize it from their claws if I ever want to sell it.
I'd love one day. I hope to come down to Provence and see your house. And that is a storeroom. Did you say a big storeroom full of
warehouse,
stuff? Warehouse. But until then, I'm gonna have to say thank you for
Merci.
sharing your time with me and sharing your stories. And I look forward to catching up with you guys again.
Wonderful. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
There you have it. That is the episode for this week. A big thanks to Hugh and Susannah Cameron from Chez Pluie. You can find all the links in the show notes below. Also, check out the blog on theeiffeltower.com, where there'll be pictures of all those items that they mentioned, links to their shops, even a selfie of the three of us near Shakespeare & Company. Bit of news on the home front here at Eiffel Tower headquarters. If you're listening to the show when it came out, on the 30th of January, in 2 days from now, so 1st of February, Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a walk through Paris, an exploratory walk where I'm inviting Patreon members to follow along. It's a bit of a weird and wild one. It's not a typical touristy walk, it's more of a sort of a scavenger hunt. So if you're in Paris and you want to join, or if you want to get invites to similar events in the future, patreon.com/the Eiffel Tower. Become a member and open doors. That's how simple it is. If you're not in Paris, I'll be doing a live stream of this particular walk and you'll be able to watch along. But I'm not going to go into the details now of what it is all about because it's going to be an upcoming episode and I want it to be a surprise for the rest of you. That will do for me. Thank you for joining me on this trip to Provence and have a lovely week wherever you are. I'll be back on Monday with another episode as usual. I'll leave you with Press Maxim. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.